Hill, I want to welcome you to New York City, and thank you for joining me. So Hill and I are here to discuss a topic that's important to both of us, the topic of cancer. You're a cancer survivor, I'm a cancer researcher, and at this moment our paths have converged. And so I want to talk about that and where my new organization called Beats of Laughter is going. But before we begin, I actually want to bring up your book because I've been reading it and it's great and it's really empowered me a bit, and I think it's so relevant to this disease that we all face. Mm-hmm. And one of the themes in your book that has really impressed me is the concept of redefining wealth. Mm-hmm. And I want you to speak about that.
Okay. Well, my book, The Wealth Cure, discusses my journey in dealing with a cancer diagnosis. But what it really highlights, and it's part financial manual about financial literacy, but at the same time a discussion about what true wealth is in our lives. Right. And my argument in the book is that we all have different wealth factors. We're all different. We all have different wealth factors that create a truly wealthy life, which is beyond money. And for me, when I was diagnosed with cancer, what I realized is that health is probably my number one wealth factor. The idea of it doesn't matter how much celebrity you have, it doesn't matter if your TV show's number one, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't have your health, if you're in pain, if you're thinking about your own mortality, or if you're not even around, then what do you really have? How can you add to the conversation if you're not here? And so realizing that and knowing that my father had died from cancer, my grandfather had passed from cancer, my uncle had passed from cancer. So it doesn't take a molecular biologist like yourself to know that the male side of my family, there's a cancer issue. And, so it's time for me to be cognizant of that and realize that how can I take care of myself, continue to live my life, but at the same time try to take care of my health and make my health a huge wealth factor for myself. Right. And that's what the Wealth Cure means.
Right. No, exactly. And I love that title. I think it resonates with Americans. I really do, because in 1971, President Nixon signed the National Cancer Act. And he signed it because Americans wanted to eradicate cancer as a number one cause of death, or a major cause of death in this country. And so there has been dedicated effort to put more money into research. And at this point, our government spends billions annually on cancer research. And what is it? And the idea is we spend more money on research, and we're going to buy the cure. Where has it gotten us? We have great research in this country. That's clear. However, it's debatable as to whether this research really translates into the clinic, because today, over 1.5 million people are still diagnosed with this disease each year, and about 500,000 of us die each year. So clearly there's sort of bottlenecks in the process. And I guess my question to you, when we're talking about the war on cancer, and you are a cancer survivor, it's touched your family, what's your perspective on the war on cancer? How do you see it? Have we made progress? And if so, where? If we haven't, where are the hurdles?
Well, I'll say this, that I'm proud that the president recently chose me to be a member of the president's cancer panel. It's myself as kind of the layperson with two incredible, medical professionals. And so, as someone who is a cancer survivor, I'm not an expert, I'm not an expert in cancer research. I'm not an expert in clinical usage of drugs or the research around whatever's being created. I just know that cancer is an insidious disease that affects millions of people around the world. And the question is, what are we going to do to solve it? And part of it, to be quite honest, is raising awareness, and that's where I come in. So my area of expertise is hopefully to raise awareness, to let individuals know that their health is vital, that early diagnosis is vital. And if folks sense something wrong like I did, I was shooting a movie in Atlanta, a movie called For Colored Girls with Tyler Perry, and I woke up one morning I couldn't swallow. Now I could have just blown that off, because I knew I wasn't sick, so I knew it wasn't strep throat or something like that, but I knew something, I had an intuition that something was wrong. I called a friend of mine who was a physician in Atlanta. He sort of, I think, recognized some of the symptoms. He said, come in, and then I had to do ultrasound-guided fine needle biopsy of my thyroid. Now, clearly, there was an advantage I had. One advantage was the ability to call up a physician directly, immediately get an appointment, and immediately have work done to diagnose what the problem was, okay? That comes with some measure of privilege. What about all the other individuals out there? So many people who don't even have health coverage, number one. Number two, the people who have health coverage, but it's of a level that they can't call just the same day and get an appointment and get something done. So I want people to be their own curators of their own health and let people know that they can take control and hopefully find different avenues to make sure they get early diagnosis. That's really where my lane lies, awareness and encouragement. When it comes to how the dollars are being spent, they're allocated towards cancer research versus how it translates to the clinical side and how it gets to the patients or this, that, and the other, I have no idea, but I hope that everyone has the same goal in mind, and that's to eradicate this disease, and I hope that we can get there.
If I can ask you about the President's Cancer Panel, I had, as a cancer researcher, I've been doing it for decades, never even heard of it, but when I looked it up, I thought, what a prestigious situation to be in. What is it really? And
I just joined it. I know that there's 3 members of the panel. Mm-hmm. The 2 are medical professionals, and 1 is always a non-medical person. I took Lance Armstrong's place. Lance Armstrong was the non-medical person that I replaced. We haven't even, I haven't actually attended my first meeting yet, so I can't give you the ins and outs of what goes on in the meeting. I'm sure it's heated argument about cancer and, comes to blows and it's just really ugly. No, I'm very, very curious, very interested, and I'm very honored. At the end of the day, I want to serve. And I'm willing to speak publicly about my challenges with cancer, which isn't, to be quite honest, not necessarily the best thing for my career. You have to understand that in the entertainment business, that people want leading men to seem, completely like men of steel. You got, and no one wants to work with someone who's like, oh God, did you hear he had cancer? You may not be able to finish the movie. It's not necessarily the best thing, but it was in terms of career. But it's important to me to publicly speak about it because maybe it saves one person's life. Maybe someone gets checked out. Maybe they say, I heard he'll talk about not being able to swallow. I'm having the same trouble. So when I think about the President's Cancer Panel, if that helps in whatever way save a life, then I'm happy to sign my name and serve.
Right. And that is powerful indeed. I want to again loop back to your book because there was another aspect of it about the definition of wealth that really hit home with me, and that is wealth, at least as you were describing in the book, is beyond the money component. It includes your health.
Yes.
But it also includes following your passion, and you said something about following your North Star.
Yes.
And that hit home with me because that's basically, I've been following my bliss forever. I started out as a research scientist in the lab,
mm-hmm.
and me and my team of scientists were working on a DNA molecule. As molecular biologists, we like working with DNA and RNA. And
on CSI New York, I work with a lot of DNA
so
as well.
Know what that
I know
is.
exactly what it is. It's all very real on our show,
So that's why I feel like you're a scientist.
Yes, very much. Just call me Dr. Hawks.
Exactly. But this particular molecule, we believed had the potential to become a treatment for ovarian cancer.
Okay.
And ovarian cancer, as you know, is one of the deadliest cancers. Our president's mother died of this disease. The survival rates are very low. It's probably one of the worst out there. So I started out being an entrepreneur. I turned scientist, entrepreneur, raised some money, and 2-3 years down the road, I realized this is impossible. All the funding, the funding pools have dried up. And then I realized that story is just not my story. That's the story of almost all bio-entrepreneurs. We're well funded in research. There's a lot of money for research and discovery. And then as soon as we take the discovery out and put it on, and it's in the hands of the entrepreneurs, well, there's no money, or there is money, but very little. And the issue is that these new nascent technologies are very risky. They're too early. They're very risky, and they take a lot of cash in order to see the next milestone.
Mm-hmm.
So what I realized that this cash gap is called what we call in the field the valley of death. And so on my journey, as I realized I couldn't pursue developing this molecule, I decided to form this new organization called Beats of Laughter. And it's a strange name for a cancer organization, but I'll explain the name. But the idea of Beats of Laughter is really to make the public aware of the Valley of Death and to create a philanthropic venture fund that would specifically support the development of these early stage projects. And if you go around the country and you look at all the famous cancer research organizations, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these nascent technologies, just what I call potential cures, if you will, that are just sitting there waiting to be realized, but yet there's no cash. And what I have come to realize that this is a bottleneck in our process, in our war, in the war of cancer.
Well, I have a question then.
Yeah.
Well, why, and again, I have no idea about this, and so it's very interesting to me. Why doesn't the private market handle that? If you're saying that there is a potential cure out there, it would suggest to me that the for-profit drug companies would be interested in
right.
developing that.
Right.
Is that not the case?
And that's a great question. In fact, I'm glad you asked it, because they do jump on it, but not until it's later stage. So what you have are the discoveries that are early, and then you have the late stuff that's in the clinic, and then the technology that is still developing in between is where the funding gap is.
Mm-hmm.
And that donut hole is what we call the valley of death. But a venture organization or a pharmaceutical company will not jump on something that is too early, too risky, and takes too much cash, because inevitably most of these things don't make it. But there's going to be one, right? 1 out of 100, maybe 1 out of 1,000 that will. And it becomes a numbers game. So how many can we actually vet to figure out which one is it going to be? And I think this is the dilemma of how we spend money. We spend billions on cancer research. So the dilemma is, how are we using that money wisely to actually make people feel better? And I think we haven't gotten there yet. We're still in that mix, and I think that's what this organization wants to make people more aware of. We want to build a venture fund. We want to work with the cancer research organizations to help them get these technologies to move forward. We want to incentivize organizations to move these technologies forward. That's the goal. And it's a really tall order, because it's a lot of technology, it's a lot of money. And cancer is so complex at the end of the day. So I think, what my vision for this organization, as I was mentioning to you, is to get different stakeholders on one stage. So it would be cancer researchers like myself, entertainers like you, political figures, the media, the concerned public, all together to move this forward. And the idea is that we wanted to raise money through music and comedy, because we thought music and laughter is universal, and we could reach the pop culture. So that was our approach.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I think having you here today, to me, is convergence, and is like the first convergence.
No,
of where
because
the
you
vision
think
is.
I'm funny looking? Yeah, that's really,
Because
I'm really happy that you had
so
me,
much.
yeah.
I think it's two journeys, and
It's okay. You can say you want people to laugh at me. It's fine.
You tell good jokes, correct?
Oh, no, I'm kidding. No, it's great.
So I thank you. Thank you in both ways, for the book and for being here as well.
Thank you very much.